Hi, my name is Callie. I'm going to talk to you about the Volkswagen emissions crisis. So, what happened was the Volkswagen Group was implicated on some manipulation of their devices, of their vehicles using deceit devices. So, this all came to light in September of 2015 that Volkswagen had manipulated their vehicles to have lower levels of nitrogen dioxide. I believe that's correct. Yep, nitrogen dioxide in their vehicles. So they could pass standards testing, but then get away without having the greater technology. So regulators continue to investigate. Stock plummeted in reaction, as a public's reaction to this crisis. Um, and the leadership did admit to the deception after a couple of days, and they did issue a public apology. However, it wasn't very, as this played out, it didn't turn out very well for them. This was a low hazard, high outrage crisis. It was low hazard because there wasn't a great amount of danger in the crisis. However, it was high outrage because there was quite a bit of manipulation and deceit towards the public. So just not a great situation for Volkswagen to find itself in. And according to the situational crisis communication theory, this was a very preventable crisis. This was something that the company easily could have avoided, obviously, by being more up, like, by the law, following the law here. So this is also an organizational misdeed with no injuries. These stakeholders are deceived without injury. Obviously, they're injured in that the vehicle they purchased isn't what they intended, but they weren't injured in a physical or financial sense. They will be getting their cars fixed at no cost to them. Here's one of the cars that was affected by it, just for a little bit of context. It was the TDI clean diesel line. So that's the cars that were affected. They had defeat devices that manipulated their emissions results. You can see here how the public reacted financially to this. They stopped investing in Volkswagen. Their stock took quite a hit. And this is from 2013, where you can see the stock pretty high, all the way through 2018. Stock continued to stay below where it was at previously. So if we're talking about communications goals and strategies, obviously we want to share information, change beliefs, and change behavior. These are all, you can identify these strategies, these goals to the strategies they released in the following days after this all came to light, about how they're sharing information in what leadership knows, cars are affected. They're trying to change beliefs, and that they're trying to establish that Volkswagen can still be trusted. They're going to be transparent throughout this process. They're going to get to the bottom of what's going on. And after changing behavior, Volkswagen is going to fix the issue, and the cars will be eco-friendly and trustworthy again. You can see that in a lot of what the leadership is sharing, in how you don't need to stop buying Volkswagen. Volkswagen is still a good company. These cars have been manipulated. We don't allow this sort of violation, so we will be getting to the bottom of it. This is seen in some strategies. There was a video statement from the CEO, Martin Winterkorn, initially right away addressing what was going on. He also released a press statement, as we'll see in the next slide. This was, there was a plan to refit up to 11 million cars, which is different than the initial 480,000 they had initially said were affected. They established an online service to see if the customers' vehicles were affected, and they offered U.S. customers significant compensation. Now, the difference is with a crisis in that if there was an engineering mistake, then the company could follow disaster communication intervention framework. They could have followed pre-event planning all the way through to post-event planning. Considering this was willful deceit, the company could not follow anything they already had. There was some degree of the unknown in the situation, and that there were people in leadership positions who knew about it and people in leadership positions who didn't know about it. It was deceit, and they got caught. So here is the statement from the CEO. He is taking responsibility for breaking the trust, but he doesn't take responsibility for the actual manipulation and deceit. He does stress that they do not and will not tolerate violations of any kind. So this statement here is a good example of image restoration theory and how he is engaging a bit of denial and shifting the blame. But he is creating a positive message for moving forward, saying that we will do everything that must be done to reestablish trust. This statement comes 3 days later, and he is again stating this is very shocking and stunning to them. He is taking responsibility now for the irregularities that have been found in the diesel engines, and he is also stepping down as the CEO. He does maintain this position for a couple more months, and he does give a speech at the Detroit, Michigan car show, but he is stepping down. And a lot of the leadership ended up stepping down or being arrested because there were criminal proceedings that went along with this crisis. Now, this next statement came the same day, and it's coming from the board of directors. It's all the information that they know about this. There are what they're going to be doing the next steps, how the company is going to move forward with this, and how the community can trust Volkswagen still. Now, beyond these statements and the statements that were continuing to be released, there is not a lot of media out there addressing this crisis. There weren't commercials, there weren't print ads saying you can still trust Volkswagen. Instead, Volkswagen stepped back from the public eye and removed themselves from the conversation while the legal proceedings were going on. They were still addressing the crisis, but through official channels, not through media. And I think that worked for them. As you can see with their stock over the last 5 years, this is 2015 through 2020. You can see the plummet here, but you can also see how it regrows, and quite a bit. They regained that trust. Now, you can ignore 2020 because that's all pandemic effects there, but how they chose to step back from the conversation to allow the company to heal in the right way, I think that was the best way they could do it, considering that they were lying to the public about what had happened. So it was a good, responsible step. So in summary, yes, they failed to be truly transparent. And yes, leadership had initially failed to take responsibility. They were held accountable through criminal proceedings and people stepping down. But time heals all wounds. They were able to recover from this crisis. This car in this slide is from their new line of electronic cars that were supposed to be released this year, but with the pandemic, they were delayed. So I believe the next line of cars will be released in 2021. So, I mean, overall, it was not a great crisis for them to find themselves in, but they navigated it as best they could. So, thank you.